It's time for Todd's Odds. Brought to you by FanDuel with our sports betting expert Todd Fuhrman, the former Caesars odds maker. What a star this guy is, and we're excited to talk to him about hockey because he's a Vegas Golden Knights season ticket holder. He understands the game, and he understands that a lot of Leaf fans are concerned about this Leafs-Bruins matchup. Though, Todd, I was surprised to see this is actually their first playoff matchup since 2019. It's not as recent a history as maybe some people think. But the Leafs at plus 100 to win this series, is that a number that makes you comfortable betting on a team that's won only one playoff series since 2004?
Unfortunately, Jay, it does not. But the one thing I will say is odds makers are giving the Maple Leafs a ton of respect in the betting market, knowing how one-sided this series has gone. And while I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on and say I'm a conspiracy theorist by any stretch of the imagination, the effort the Bruins showed in losing the last two games of the regular season against the Washington Capitals and, of course, against the Ottawa Senators that moved them from the catbird seat in the Atlantic into that 2 spot does leave you scratching your head. I think this series should be outstanding. You mentioned the history there, and what would be better than if we got these two proud franchises to go the distance in a best-of-7?
It would be terrific. Then you have Winnipeg and Colorado, and it's, of course, the front-runner for the Vezina against the front-runner for the Hart Trophy. And you've got Winnipeg, actually, although they do have home ice advantage, they're underdogs in this series at plus 115. Is that a number that interests you in any capacity, Todd?
You know, it is. When you look at the way this season series has gone, I mean, Winnipeg put the exclamation point on their domination of the Colorado Avalanche with that resounding 7-0 win just last weekend. And they've done a great job of truly clamping down on some of this high-end firepower that the Avalanche have. When you look at the Winnipeg Jets, I know from a scoring standpoint, you wonder where the goals are going to come from sometimes. But Gabe Vilardi rounding into form, and you're starting to see some of that chemistry and continuity on the first group with Mark Scheifele and, of course, Kyle Connor. We know what Lowry can do to be a thorn in the side of Nathan MacKinnon. And I think this is all about matchups because Colorado does have the two preeminent stars in Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. I don't want to sell Mikko Rantanen short either, but I think this is a Jets team. The deeper this series goes, they can be big, they can be physical, they can be heavy. And it's hard to ignore the massive advantage that they have in net with Connor Hellebuck. No reason for me to believe that the Jets can't pull off a little bit of upset, riding that home crowd, knowing that it was only a season ago that Colorado went to 7 games and it was Seattle pulling off the upset. Yep. I think Winnipeg is built from a similar cloth, more than capable of doing it again this year. And
the whiteout will be in full effect. The Team Cup futures that you have identified, both in the Western Conference, Stars and Kings. You had the Penguins at 100-1. They run out of runway, so we can't talk about them. But is there someone else maybe in the East, Todd, in terms of a Cup pick that might interest you at this point?
We did take a little bit of a flyer last week. We know it was going to be the ultimate boomer bust. And to your point, Pittsburgh dropping that game on Saturday night against the Boston Bruins proved to be their final undoing. You know, honestly, Jay, when I look at the top of the Eastern Conference, Carolina a rightful favorite at this point. You know that Florida is going to be there in the pecking order as well. And I think you're better served to try and adopt a series-by-series mentality more so than betting into the futures market. Now, the one thing that the Carolina Hurricanes have and the New York Rangers as well, at least on paper, they have the most forgiving opening round matchups. But we know it's the NHL playoffs. And just because a team is a massive favorite doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot the deeper we go. So while I think Carolina and Florida could be on a crash course for the Eastern Conference final again, I just don't see enough upside in either of those teams the way they're currently being priced in the market.
Todd, I know you're not going to believe this. It's been over 3 decades since a Canadian NHL team won the Cup. Hardly any time at all. We've got 4 potential teams that could do it this year. Jets, Canucks, Oilers, Maple Leafs. Is there any value in taking that collective group at a plus 280 price for a little playoff-style border battle?
I mean, Jay, this isn't going to endear me to a lot of Maple Leafs fans, but I don't think Toronto has the chops, so to speak, to win a Stanley Cup and end that drought. So I kind of rule them out of that equation. While I do think Winnipeg is more than capable of pulling an upset or two, I'm just not sure they'll have enough to get the job done. Vancouver's going to have their hands full in the opening round. So for me, if I'm making this bet, I really believe it all hinges on the Edmonton Oilers finally allowing number 97 and number 29 to engrave their name on the Stanley Cup. So I'd actually feel more comfortable betting Edmonton to win the Cup rather than all of those Canadian teams against the field. So for me, that's probably the way that I would attack it, which means, Jay, we are destined for Toronto to win the Eastern Conference and a Western Conference final that has the Winnipeg Jets against the Vancouver Canucks.
And you know what? Those two fan bases would be perfectly thrilled with you for making that happen through this entire segment. Todd, you're the best. Always great chat with you, and enjoy those Vegas Golden Knights playoff games.
Hey, always a pleasure. And Jay, the best part, we have no idea when these series are going to get underway. What could be better than the Western Conference giving their teams 36 hours of rest before the most meaningful games they'll play all season?
It's just the NHL's way.